If you've spent the last few evenings scrolling through endless telescope lists, watching video after video trying to decide between a big, bright Dobsonian and a sleek, portable refractor, and you're still left wondering which one will actually give you nights of clear, rewarding views without turning your garage into a storage unit, this review is for you. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the past month setting up the SkyWatcher Flextube 250, pulling it apart, packing it into my car, and spending clear-ski time on 3 different sites. So I'll walk you through what it feels like to own a 10-inch Dobsonian that folds, talks to your phone, and promises a 42,000 object database. By the end, you should know whether the promise of big aperture, easy GoTo is a genuine win for you, or just a fancy way of saying big, heavy, and a bit fiddly. First off, the thing that draws most people to this telescope is the aperture. A 10-inch mirror collects roughly 3 times more light than a 6-inch Dobsonian, which translates into richer colors and nebulae and the ability to split tighter double stars that smaller scopes simply can't resolve. When I pointed it at the Orion Nebula, the veil of pink and red was noticeably deeper than what I've seen on my older 8-inch model, and the core of the trifid showed the dust lanes in a way that felt almost professional. The 94% reflective coating on the primary mirror isn't a marketing gimmick. It's the reason those faint details appear without the need for long exposure stacking. If your wow factor comes from deep sky objects that reveal themselves over several minutes, the aperture alone makes the price tag feel justified. Now, the collapsible design is where SkyWatcher tries to solve the classic Dobsonian dilemma: big performance, small footprint. The tube splits into 2 sections that lock together with a simple latch, shrinking the overall length by almost half. In practice, this means the whole package fits into a standard roof rack box and can be loaded into a mid-size SUV without a second helper. Unfolding the tube on the night of a backyard session took about 5 minutes. 2 people, a bit of a click-clack as the metal gear rings engage, and you have a rigid tube ready for alignment. For families who need to stash the scope in a garage or for amateurs who occasionally drive to dark sky locations, that portability is a genuine advantage. It's not a backpack-sized travel scope, but it's far more manageable than a solid 10-inch tube that would require a truck or a permanent dedicated room. The SynScan GoTo system is baked into the Dobsonian base, and that's where the built-in Wi-Fi becomes useful. Instead of fiddling with a handheld controller, you can launch the SkyWatcher app on your phone, sync it with the mount, and select objects from the 42,000 object database. The first alignment on a clear night took me roughly 10 minutes. I entered my latitude, longitude, and performed a 2-star alignment using the built-in polar scope. Once the database was loaded, the telescope slewed to the moon within seconds, and I could jump straight into a lunar crater tour without manually scanning. For newcomers who feel intimidated by Find the Right Star manuals, the GoTo function dramatically reduces the learning curve and turns the first few sessions into pure visual pleasure. That said, there are trade-offs hidden in the convenience. The Dobsonian base is heavier than a simple manual Altaz mount because it houses motors, a battery pack, and the electronics needed for Wi-Fi communication. The whole system weighs around 70 pounds, which means you still need a sturdy, level surface and, ideally, a dedicated tripod or platform that can support that load without wobbling. Setting it up on a rooftop patio with a flimsy table led to noticeable vibration, especially when tracking objects near the horizon. If you plan to move the scope frequently, say, from a backyard to a parking lot on a whim, the weight becomes a logistical factor. You'll also need a reliable power source. The included rechargeable battery lasts about 5 hours under continuous GoTo operation, so for a full night of hunting, a plug-in power supply or spare battery is a must. Another practical wrinkle is the Wi-Fi connection itself. In my suburban backyard, with a few Wi-Fi routers and a modest amount of light pollution, the phone link held steady for several hours. However, once I drove to a remote dark sky site with only a mobile hotspot, the connection occasionally dropped when the scope was pointed near dense tree cover. The app will automatically reconnect, but you lose a few seconds each time, which can be frustrating if you're trying to lock onto a fast-moving object like a comet. The lesson here is that while the integrated Wi-Fi is a neat feature, it shouldn't be your sole method of control. Having the handheld controller as a backup is wise. Who should consider buying the SkyWatcher Flextube 250? If you're in